Hey there, guys. It's Obsidian Chill, and I did it. I did it for you guys. I signed on with the intent to just work on my gadgets rotations, and then I kept getting messages about the heat vision artifact, and other people tried it, and other people left comments on my other videos about it. So I was like, well, you know what? Screw it. Let's see. I popped because I popped on the broker, saw there's some XP available that I could have bought. Opened up some more of the time capsules, and here we sit now. So I can assure you that I have the highest artifacts in the entire game. There's no one touched me on that aspect with the fully ranked cola, the 160 soul cloak, and 3 120s. Yeah, I'm the artifact god, that's for sure. So let's kind of break down what you guys saw in the video. Now, and you can kind of see the numbers breakdown here. So I know I kind of sped it up there just because I obviously didn't want to sit there for 3 minutes and just watch me do the rotations. So I kind of sped that up, put some music over it. So it kind of gives you an idea of the animations and stuff like that. So first impressions, it's actually quite decent. It's not as OP as I thought it was going to be. like when they came out with this, they kind of hyped it up a lot, and I honestly had some worries that like this is going to be like the the new go-to artifact. It's still much weaker than it was during Stats Revamp. When Stats Revamp came out, Heat Vision was way stronger. Like it was a must in your rotation. So this is certainly not like that, but it is better. That's the thing. So what I mean by that is you can see in the Heat Vision regular, at my first test, I just did a baseline, and I'm doing 6 parsers. They're all 30 seconds, and I'm tracked the crit percentage and average damage. So comparing to, okay, perhaps go weird. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so the average damage was 127,870. The average crit percentage was around 30% between those 6 parsers, which was fairly good. Now, the Solar Amplifier at rank 80, which is the 10% I-beam damage, I saw a couple of trends. One, it seems to crit way less. And 6 parsers at 30 seconds is a pretty fair sample size to get an average crit. So what I found was that if it doesn't crit and does like a normal amount, like 21% crit there, it did 121, 29 did 137, where Heat Vision regulars do 136, 140, stuff like that. So it certainly does more damage, but it seems to crit way less. And I know this is including all the burning ticks. It's not including just the large ticks. As you can see, the like Heat Vision regular, my largest tick is around like 8,400. And then my largest crit at a rank 80 was 9,400. So you are seeing an increase in damage around like the 10%. So it's a noticeable increase in damage, but it's really if you're getting the crits. If you're getting it to crit like here, 32%, 158, that's way higher than anything with regular. But if it doesn't crit and you're getting like 24, 21, then it's less. So it seems like the crits are hit or miss on it, but in the end, you're still doing more damage. The other thing, as well as I should note, is that you can still jump cancel it with the blue Heat Vision at 80. So if you want to just get the first few ticks and jump cancel off like I usually do in all my guide videos, you can still do that. That works just fine. And then you'll be getting obviously the increased damage maximized there because the initial ticks will hit higher with increased damage. But the Solar Amplifier at rank 120, this one you have to do the full duration for it to proc the explosion. So what that means is probably not too many power sets used Heat Vision the entire duration. It just was unnecessary. By that time, you needed to go into your next power. Most people jump cancel after the second tick, so it was like 2 or 3 seconds you're in it. Basically, this is going to extend the duration of your Heat Vision by about 2 seconds. So while that may interfere with some rotations, it may not for others. But essentially, the 3 target damage, this is what I was getting. I was hard targeted in the center sparring target, and then basically did it. And it would range. The base damage was around 2,000, 2,100, and the crits was around 4,000 to 4,100 in that range on the 3 targets. And the crit percentage stays about the same. The regular Heat Vision was 30, and this is 26, 27%. So that's fairly close for crit. So it seems like they may have adjusted the crits on it to make sure that the artifact Heat Vision wasn't as strong. Maybe they did that because there's so much backlash in the forums about it, saying like you have to pay for fixes in the powers. A lot of people were upset when they announced that Heat Vision was getting a buff from an artifact behind a paywall, which was understandable. But so I don't know if they adjusted the crit percentages after the fact, before it came out, or this was just how it worked out and how they thought they would adjust it. But it seems, yes, you're getting increased damage, but it seems to crit less than you would normally get. The other thing I should mention as well, it may not show up in the video, but the base stats on the artifact are actually quite high. Even at rank 120, the Solar Amplifier has more base might than my might artifact, as well as the 160 Soul Cloak. So your might is going to get a big boost just from equipping the artifact by a couple hundred might. Compared, you would think the might artifact would have a lot of, because everything else is the same. It buffs your health, power, and might, just like the other, like the might artifacts, except that compared to The might artifact, I lose 300 health but gain like 127 might. So it seems like they flipped it. So the Solar Amplifier has less health than the other artifacts, but it has more might. Let's see. The other thing I should mention as well is, as you saw just in this last clip, the radius of the AoE explosion is quite large. It's about 3 squares wide, which would be about 10 to 15 meters roughly. And really, there's no ads that are going to be much wider than that radius. Maybe like the next group of ads, but you should be fairly confident that the explosion is going to hit everything. The other thing I noticed as well at 120 and the last clip, you'll see the splitting damage it doesn't split very well at all. The AoE explosion itself, as you can see on that parser on the 8 targets, I got 187,000 damage, where on the 3 target I was getting this basically the same numbers. I was getting 187, 188. So I was doing the same damage on 3 targets with heat vision as I was on 8. So that's a pretty bad split. Not that there's too many instances where you're going to run into groups of 8 or more, like Zoo, some of the hallways if the tanks are pulling all the ads, and like SSE and stuff. But most of the time, the groups are going to be between 3 to like 6 NPCs, TTB, SSE final boss, stuff like that. So the splitting hopefully won't be as bad there, but on large groups, it's not worth it just to kind of pop heat vision and then have the explosion go off. At least from my results. And then basically down here on the graph, so it gives a bit of representation. Heat vision regular, the average is 127 at rank 80, which is supposed to be a 10% increase. You got 138 average, and then Solar Amplifier on 3 targets was 189. So basically, it's roughly like a 60,000. I'm getting 60,000 damage from the AoE explosion on that versus the single target damage of heat vision. So it's not like heat vision becoming AoE now makes it like an awesome power or anything. There's certainly more options that you would run into. But for single target, that's where this excels. So there's a lot of fights that aren't pure single target, like say like Pan-E, stuff like that. In TTBE on Aquaman, you've got the tentacles. SSE, you've got the water spouts. If you're using like a Zooey second boss, you've got the lions, the other bosses, stuff like that. So there's a large number of fights in this game that aren't purely single target. There's another target out there, whether it be like a 1 or 2 ads. So in certain cases, especially take light for example, like hand clap is single target, grasping hand is single target, and heat vision was single target. So you were very limited if there was other ad damage out there. Now with this heat vision proccing AoE explosion, you got that AoE damage to kind of supplement you losing out on a pure single target rotation. So that's about my conclusions there. Whether or not you should level the artifact, I think it's going to be worth it to get to 120, which is only about 167,000 XP. So that's realistic. I know that's still going to be hard for a lot of people, but in terms of how fast, or not how fast, but how much nth metal you can earn, 160 is, or 167,000 XP is certainly doable within a realistic time frame. The 160, the only thing the 160 does is it adds burning. So basically think of like heat vision regular on an AoE scale. So you're going to get the AoE explosion and then you'll get burning dots on all those AoE targets. So that could be good. The burning ticks on heat vision regular was about like 12 burning ticks. You'd get like 12 ticks of damage on every single target after the AoE explosion. Those ticks aren't going to amount to a lot of damage, but it's more you've got extra dots ticking. Is that going to be worth like 500,000 nth metal? I don't personally believe so, but at the same time, I don't believe some of the control, like the Parasite Power Harness and even the Might Artifact, I don't believe are worth 160 either. 500,000 XP for 0.2% increase in your Might, and 500,000 XP for 1% increase in power, and like a 2% increase on the debuffs or whatever. So at the same time, there's like the 160 Soul Amplifier will be about the same as the other 160s, except like Soul Cloak and stuff. So really, if you have the extra nth metal, you can put it towards it. But I feel that you'd be fine with it at 120. Do I think you need to change your entire rotation to use this? I don't believe so. It's not that strong. It's more an extra boost in damage, and depending on the fight, it could be strong. But right now, these are the results here. This is what I'm seeing. Um, it's tough because to be able to use it, I need to lose my might artifact. And while there's a lot of DPS out there using the might artifact, they're not going to give me as much might as I could. Because with my skill points, I give about 1800 health with that might artifact with my like 130 SP into health. And now I'll be missing that, which I guess doesn't really matter because in the end, that same might I'm giving out to other people in the group as well. So I might as well be a bit selfish and use this heat vision artifact for my single target fights. But in terms of using heat vision for AoE now, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think, well, there's some power sets that might benefit from it, but a lot of, like, say, like quantum, stuff like that, it's not going to be as beneficial for AoE, that's for sure. But for single target, you're going to obviously get the extra damage from the AoE explosion. But that's it, guys. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. And I better see a lot of thank yous for spending like 200 million in game cash to get all this XP in a day. Take care, guys.